Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1968B, and today's date is September 12th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Prosecutions on Deck. This is just the beginning. Deep state pain coming. Now, before we get started, let's talk about being prepared. The world is going to change. That fact is all over our headlines and how markets are reacting to them. And when it does, it only takes one major disaster to remind us of how fragile life is. When emergencies strike, are you prepared for days without electricity and stores being closed for weeks? If not, today's the day to act, and we're in National Preparedness Month. Make a plan. I have my Build an Emergency Food Storage Supply, and I prepare with my Patriot Supply. They're the industry leaders for preparedness and sell the emergency food, gear, water filtration products that you will need at some point. Act today and save $100 on a 4-week emergency food when you go to my special website, preparewithx22.com. These 4-week food kits last up to 25 years in storage and include breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Get free shipping too, discreetly to your door. Don't ignore the writing on the wall. Prepare for what's coming and save $100. Go to preparewithx22.com. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, it seems that everything the deep state was trying to do, all their cases they were using to show the American people that Trump and his administration colluded with Russia, have completely fallen apart. Once Flynn's case is dismissed, the deep state's push is completely dead in regards to Russia. They know this. Look what they've tried to do so far, and it's all failed. Russian collusion, fail. Obstruction, fail. Racism, fail. Recession, fail. Now, they are pushing hard for impeachment. Except there's a problem. One, they won't have a full vote of the House of Representatives. Two, they really don't have any evidence. Three, the Senate was the key. This will go nowhere, just like everything else they tried. Representative Doug Collins tweeted out the following: "Today's ambiguity is a product of the chairman's own making because there is an easy way to know exactly whether this committee is in impeachment proceedings. It's called a vote of the full House of Representatives." Now, Nadler, he doesn't want to have this full vote. He wants to go along and try to make up things and pretend through the mainstream media that they're pursuing an impeachment. Mark Meadows reminds the House that the IG just released a report saying Comey violated almost every FBI policy. Mark Meadows tweeted out the following: "Not 2 weeks ago, we've had an explosive IG report indicating the former FBI director used his position to improperly leak information and target the president. But instead of following up on that, we're passing meaningless resolutions so Democrats can pretend to impeach Trump." Representative Matt Gaetz tries to explain that we should be looking at the Obama White House, corruption, Comey report, MIFSUD, FISA abuses, instead of wasting time on impeachment, which is a dead end. Take a listen to what Representative Matt Gaetz had to say.
There are legitimate investigations that we should be conducting. We should be determining what corrupt entities within the Obama White House fanned the flames of the lies that President Trump was engaged in a criminal conspiracy. We should investigate how someone like Joseph Mifsud can make things up, can launch us into this bizarre fact pattern and then disappear like out of thin air without any desire to find out why that happened. And we most certainly should be investigating the FISA abuses where Jim Comey and other actors within a very corrupt deep state perpetrated a fraud on the FISA court. They went before a judge with no defense attorney and they didn't present all the evidence. And they did that so that they could shoehorn a secret court into giving them authorities that no government should have to weaponize political opposition research within the confines of our really important investigative work. What Brennan and Comey and Clapper and McCabe have done to our country is deeply damaging. And it was my hope that as members of the Judiciary Committee, we could come together, we could root out this corruption, and we could ensure that it never happens again to another president. But in the meantime, can we at least adopt this amendment, and can we at least be willing to stand behind our own arguments and our own questions as members of the United States Congress and members of the Judiciary Committee? Or is it the desire of the majority to delegate and slough off this important task to members of your CNN staff? I certainly hope that's not the case, and I yield back.
And he's absolutely right. This is a dead end, and the American people are going to look at this saying, why did you waste all of this time? You've got nothing accomplished, and you didn't impeach because it was fake. Let's go back to Q's post 3028. This is March 11, 2019. What other dumps are scheduled to occur? Think timing. Pelosi pull threat to impeach. Effort to prevent declass. Impeachment requires facts. Impeachment requires 2/3 vote of the Senate. Propaganda arm of the Deep Party, fake news, is losing control of their narrative. The truth will always win. Transparency and equal justice under the law. Save America. Q. And guess what? Truth and transparency and actual documentation and evidence will always win out. Judicial Watch has now released new documentation. This has to do with Rod Rosenstein wearing a wire. Rod Rosenstein said this never happened, but the docs that Judicial Watch got from the Freedom of Information Act says otherwise. So they obtained 14 pages of documents showing the Department of Justice. They crafted a non-denial response to reports that former Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein plotted to wear a wire to record Trump and oust him via the 25th Amendment. The Department of Justice records show Rosenstein was working to make sure the media would have difficulty finding anyone in the Department of Justice to comment on reports he was plotting to remove Trump from office, and a coordinated effort by the Department of Justice to spin the reports as an inaccurate and factually incorrect. The records also show that the Department of Justice was working to characterize Rosenstein's offer to wear a wire as sarcastic. Former FBI official James Baker testified to Congress last year that Rosenstein was definitely not joking when he offered to wear a wire. In fact, according to the testimony, Baker said Rosenstein had several serious conversations about wearing a wire and even noted that he could easily enter the White House without anyone finding out about the wire because no one ever searches him. After several requests for comment and a look of back and forth internally, the Department of Justice finally drafted a final official response addressing Rosenstein's plot to remove Trump from office. I mean, think about what is happening right now. Every time they come out with propaganda and a lie, documentation shows that what they were saying is not true. Tom Fitton tweeted out, "Coup confirmed. Department of Justice docs show coup plotters drafted non-denial of coup efforts against real Donald Trump. Judicial Watch again doing all the heavy lifting." Thank you, Tom Fitton. Thank you for all your work. Let's move on to Michael Flynn. The Mueller team is having a tough time holding this together. Sidney Powell is hitting them really hard, and their propaganda stunt is falling apart. Remember back in the day when the deep state was in control? This would have been a slam dunk case against Flynn. Today, it's a very different story. No one is believing this. They don't have the players in place to carry this out anymore. And Powell, she is asking for everything under the sun. She's asking for any evidence of Joseph Mifsud's presence and involvement in engaging or reporting on Mr. Flynn and Mifsud's presence at the Russia Today dinner in Moscow back in December 2015. And it was already known that the deep state spy Stefan Halper set up Flynn by placing the general next to Putin at the RT dinner. And as we reported before, the attorney for Michael Flynn confirmed he was a Western intelligence and not a Russian asset, as it was claimed by the Mueller team in their report. And according to Mr. Mifsud's attorney, their client was working for the CIA and was not a Russian operative. Guess what? It's all falling apart. Now, Sidney Powell, her bigger plan is to expose the breadth and depth of Spygate and how flaying Michael Flynn lay at the heart of the soft coup attempt. In her motion to compel, Powell cataloged 40 categories of evidence the government has refused to turn over. She seeks a court order requiring federal prosecutors to provide the withheld evidence under Brady and its progeny. Brady and its offshoots require prosecutors to disclose material exculpatory and impeachment evidence to the defense team. And as Judge Sullivan made clear during Tuesday's hearing, that duty exists even though Flynn had already pled guilty and even though he had agreed that the government would not be required to provide him with further evidence. Also intriguing is Powell's request for all payment, notes, memos, correspondence, and instructions by and between the FBI, CIA, or Department of Defense with Stefan Halper going back as far as 2014 regarding Michael Flynn, Svetlana Lokova, Mr. Richard Dearlove of MI6, and Professor Christopher Andrew, connected with MI5, and Halper's compensation through the Department of Defense Office of Net Assessment as evidenced by the whistleblower complaint Adam Lovinger. What is fascinating about this request is that the uninformed will see the 2014 date as evidence that Powell is on a fishing expedition, while in reality, her bid for this information shows that Powell has in 3 short months pieced together more tiles in the mosaic of the Russia collusion fraud than Robert Mueller did in 2 years. That is because the spying on Trump likely began with spying on Flynn and involved not just the FBI, CIA, and Department of Defense, but their British counterparts, and dated back to Flynn's time as President Obama's Defense Intelligence Agency director. Then, after Flynn joined Trump's team, Halper and the British crew peddled a fake story that Flynn was having an intrigue with a Russian agent named Svetlana Lokova. We also come to find out that the motion to compel revealed something else. Flynn took a polygraph in 2016 and passed the exam and had his security clearance renewed, despite former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper refusal to assist in the investigation or renewal process for Flynn's clearance. Powell said it occurred at roughly the same time the government was continuing to investigate him. It also revealed he had briefed the Defense Intelligence Agency prior to meeting with the Turkish and Russian officials. However, the prosecutors are still hiding all the exculpatory evidence which shows the details of his working with the DIA prior to his meeting with any foreign contacts. Flynn, who was previously director of the DIA, had briefed his former agency since he resigned in 2014. And here are some of the Brady materials requested by Powell. A letter delivered by the British Embassy to the incoming National Security Team after Trump's election, and to the outgoing National Security Advisor Susan Rice. The most recent production demonstrated that Mr. Flynn briefed the Defense Intelligence Agency on the people he was likely to meet on the Turkey project and the subject of that scheduled meeting before it happened. These prosecutors are still suppressing evidence that he did so on all his foreign contacts from the time he left DIA. The original draft of Mr. Flynn's 302 and 1A file, and any FBI document that identifies everyone who had possession of it, parts of which may have been leaked to the press, but the full original has never been produced. This would include information given to Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates on January 24th and 25th of 2017. The Flynn 302 dated January 19, 2017, mentioned in the Mueller report, and all the unredacted Peter Strzok text messages. Mr. Van Grack's October 4, 2018 letter asserts, to the extent the text messages appeared to be incomplete or contain gaps. We do not possess additional messages that appear to fill such gaps. The government should be compelled to identify to whom we refer, where the originals are, and whether any of the gaps have been filled or accounted for. She wants all transcripts, recording, notes, correspondence, and 302s of any interaction with human sources. And she wants everything. She even wants unredacted copies of all memos created by or other communications from James Comey that mention or deal with any investigation, surveillance, FISA applications. Think about this for a second. She wants it all. And what's very interesting about all this is Devin Nunes is out there and he's saying, hey, you know something? We've been looking for the same exact documentation. The Dirty Truth tweeted out, Devin Nunes wants everyone to know they've been looking for the same document that Sidney Powell is looking for. They've had witnesses that have seen the document tell them it exists. Take a listen to what Nunes says.
Well, I want to go back to Catherine Herridge's report. So what General Flynn's lawyers are saying, I want to let the American people know, and your audience, we've been looking for that same document. We know that document exists, this document that came from the British government, but yet nobody can seem to find it. So, I know there are witnesses out there that know this, and I hope that the judge in this case will actually get those witnesses that know this document exists and let them come in and talk to the court, or at least give an affidavit to the court.
And of course, what have they been telling Nunes? Oh, we can't find it. We don't know where it is. We don't know where the originals are. Now, many people are requesting this information. And the judge is saying, you must turn this over. Now, very interestingly, Andrew McCabe, the U.S. attorney, is recommending charges against McCabe. He will be prosecuted. He will be indicted. Think about this for a second. Comey's report came out first, showing that Comey violated the FBI policies, broke his agreement with the FBI, stole documentation that did not belong to him. And then we have Andrew McCabe, who is being brought up on charges. Why? Because the former deputy and acting director of the FBI, he lied. He gave misleading statements concerning Hillary Clinton-related investigation. So this is two people in the FBI. Lee Zeldin tweeted out the following. Andrew McCabe was fired for good reason, violated his oath, weaponized his Department of Justice position, and broke the law. McCabe should be indicted and tried. If convicted, he should be in prison. It's time. Remember when we talked about the Patriots dripping this out, getting the people on board, making the deep state feel pain? Well, first they started out with Comey. And you can see that he didn't care about rules. He thought he was above them. Then we have McCabe, who broke the rules. Now, these individuals are the low-lying fruit. Not Comey, but McCabe. And I believe they decided to prosecute because let's start pushing this entire agenda, and let's have the deep state players feel the pain and show them they're not above the law. And I said, each step of the way, what they're going to do is they're going to increase the pain. Remember when James Comey tweeted out the following? Right after the IG report came out and said, oh, I only broke the rules of the FBI and I broke my agreement. He tweeted out, despite 2 years of Trump's lies aimed at degrading the FBI, it remains a revered institution made up of good people focused on finding truth and doing justice. Stay true to your mission. America needs you. Which he's telling them, hey, don't fold. Don't turn other people in. But this is a revered institution. We have the director who didn't follow the FBI rules. And then we have McCabe who's being indicted. And most likely prosecuted, and he'll probably go to jail. But this is a revered institution made up of fantastic people. Really? Well, it seems that tweet is falling apart right now. I think he should apologize. Now, yesterday we talked about how a federal judge was trying to stop Trump on the new asylum rules. Well, it seems the Supreme Court handed Trump a huge win. The Supreme Court handed the Trump administration a big win on controlling mass illegal immigration with a ruling temporarily blocking enforcement of a nationwide injunction issued by a rogue federal judge to guard against new Trump administration rules on applicants for the much-abused asylum process. And Trump tweeted out the following: some really big court wins on the border lately. And what we see happening already is that the Trump administration is ready to open tent court on the border to help handle tens of thousands of cases of asylum seekers forced to wait in Mexico. And these hearings are going to be held entirely by video conference. The court, or soft-sided facility, a U.S. official calls it, is scheduled to begin operation in Laredo, Texas. Another is expected to open soon in Brownsville in the Rio Grande Valley, and this is the busiest corridor for illegal crossings. The administration introduced its Remain in Mexico policy in San Diego in January and later expanded it to El Paso, but hearings there are conducted inside large buildings with normal courtrooms, and the judge usually appears in person. And what we see right now is that those individuals that are seeking asylum, they're waiting in Mexico. About 40,000 non-Mexican asylum seekers have been forced to wait in Mexico while their cases wind through clogged U.S. immigration courts, and this is according to the Mexican government. And they're waiting for their hearings, and they'll wait there in Mexico, and they'll have their hearings via video conference. Trump tweeted out the following: I had an excellent telephone conversation with Andre Manuel Lopez Obrador, president of Mexico, talking about southern border security and various other things of mutual interest for the people of our respective countries. The southern border is becoming very strong despite the obstruction of Democrats not agreeing to do anything on loopholes or asylum. Trump also tweeted out that the wall is going up very fast despite total obstruction by Democrats in Congress and elsewhere. And he gave a video showing the wall being built, and the wall is being built. Now, very interestingly, we know that John Bolton was fired, and he was a neocon. And we know that those people in government like Brennan, the Pelosi, Romney, and the rest, they wanted Bolton. Remember, he's part of the team. He's part of the neocon, the deep state. But he's not part of Trump's team. And you can see that former CIA Director John Brennan, he's out there saying that he believes America's enemies are aware of a significant mayhem in the Trump administration, in the national security apparatus. There's no mayhem. There's nothing going on there. Trump has it under control. Bolton was there on purpose. He was window dressing. He kept everyone busy, while Trump and the Patriots did the real work. And when Trump didn't need him anymore, he was let go, just like every other person. Brennan went on to say, I think foreign partners as well as adversaries have already detected a significant amount of disarray and chaos in the national security establishment. This just is one more example of just how serious this issue is. Now, the timing is very interesting, and Brennan also questioned the timing of Bolton's departure, suggesting it may be a distraction from the unflattering news reports about Trump's scrapped Camp David meeting with the Taliban and military stopovers at Trump's Scottish resort. Now, again, Brennan is trying to lead everyone down a certain path, but the reason for all of this is because Trump has already made deals in the background, didn't need Bolton. By getting rid of Bolton, these deep state players, they believe that they have an opportunity now. And what I find very interesting is that all of this is around the same time period where Trump says he will be hitting the Taliban harder than ever. When he's talking about the Taliban, is he really talking about the Taliban that he's been negotiating peace? Or is he talking about the paid mercenary Taliban that's mixed in with the real Taliban soldiers, because we've seen this in many other countries where the deep state, there's a certain group of individuals who are the rebels, and then they mix in Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, with the rebels. And in Syria, they got caught. The same thing, I believe, happened here. Who is Trump hitting? He is hitting the paid mercenary army controlled by the intelligence organizations. And we see that the U.S. just put out a video, and this is from the OIR spokesman, Colonel Miles B. Kagans III, tweeted out a video of F-15, F-35s dropping bombs, about 80,000 pounds of munitions, on Qantas Island north of Baghdad. And they're saying that they're hitting the Islamic State, even though the Islamic State has long been defeated. Why is all of this happening right now? This is a message to the deep state. They want the deep state to know that, listen, we're coming after you. We're going after you in Afghanistan. We're going after you in Iraq, because they do have bases in Iraq. And we need to remember the deep state funds and supports Al-Qaeda, the Islamic State, and most terrorist organizations. Trump and the Patriots pushed the deep state into making a move. The Patriots are listening to the chatter. They're observing their moves. They want to see what they're up to. And what better way to do this is to let them do what they do best. Think that they have control. Think that Trump's national security system is in chaos. And remember, they know the D-class is coming. Remember, they know what's about to happen. And we know that they're not just going to sit around and just let it happen. They're going to create an event. And what's very interesting is the timing, because Trump just signed a new executive order to counter terrorism. And the interesting part of this is the executive order amends a previous directive to allow the state and treasury departments to directly target leaders of terrorist groups and associated entities without having to tie them to specific acts. Pompeo said, more effectively and efficiently targets individuals and entities who participate in terrorist training and provides new authorities to impose sanctions on foreign financial institutions that knowingly do business with terrorists. Now, think about this for a second. We know the intelligence organizations deal with terrorists. They create the terrorist group. They fund the terrorist group. That's their paid mercenary armies. Think about what this executive order says. Those entities that have ties to these terrorists, that train these terrorists. And since Trump put the wheels in motion, they can find out a lot more as the deep state, the intelligence organization, make new plans. And I believe all of this was done on purpose. Now, we need to remember that all of this is happening at once. There are many things happening. You got the economy, you got the deep state, you got the central bank, you have the intelligence organizations, you have the terrorist groups, you have all of this happening all at the same time. And what the Patriots are doing right now, they are slowly dripping out more and more information and showing these individuals that you are not above the law. First, it was Comey. This was the opening act. Then you brought in McCabe, who is the acting director of the FBI. He's going to be prosecuted. Then we have FISA that will be brought out to the open. This has to do with Comey. They needed the Comey report first to back up everything that he did with FISA. This is to inflict pain on these individuals. And I believe what they're going to do is they're going to work their way up the chain. Up to Clinton, up all the way up to Obama. And remember, and Tom Fenton pointed this out, this is very important. He said, by the way, Obama can still be impeached. Think about it. Impeached, tried, put into prison. All these players, their time has come. Sit back and enjoy the show, because we're at the climactic end of it, and it's going to be a doozy. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.